All right, welcome back to today's show. On this episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking to Andy Ross, who is a singer, a songwriter, country music superstar, TV host, bow hunter, an American patriot, which I love that, and entrepreneur. But before we jump into this fantastic episode, let's have a word from today's sponsor. All right, welcome back to the show. Today we have an exciting guest that I've been excited to have the opportunity to talk to. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. My name's Andy Ross, and it's always a pleasure to get on a podcast or radio or TV and share our story. So, again, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come chat with us.
Yep.
So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into music.
Well, I got here quite a different way than you might expect. I had a TV show for 10 years on the Outdoor Channel, and I bow hunted the world on outdoor TV on my program called Maximum Archery World Tour. And one day I decided, about 3 or 4 seasons into the 10 years, it might be cool to do a little music on the show, have some unique songs going in and out of commercials during the opener, when the anytime when the credits would roll and that type of thing. So I started writing some songs and using them on the show, and they'd get a little better and a little better. And songs like Blood Trail on a Whitetail, Hunt Me Down, Gotta Go Hunting Blues. And, then iTunes comes out and all the file sharing and Napster and all these things come about. And the next thing I know, I got songs going viral and country artists wanting to write with me. And a year or two later, Nashville's calling saying, hey, Andy, why don't you come make a record? So here we are, 4 albums later and having a blast.
That is an amazing story. So can you tell me a little bit about the TV show that you had and what it was like to have a TV show, especially doing outdoor stuff?
Yeah, it was really cool. We got to, I had a passion for bow hunting and for hunting in general, but bow hunting was by far kind of my favorite. And, to get to do that 7 months a year and, build a business around it was really a blessing and an opportunity that I couldn't say no to. We were gone a lot, as you can imagine. And, we're not just bow hunting, cornfields in Kansas. I mean, we're in the Yukon, we're in Alaska, we're in Mexico, we're in Mozambique and Zimbabwe and Botswana and New Zealand, all over Canada and, the Antarctic area, way up north, hunting caribou. And, we're all over the place. And when we string these hunts together, we don't just go on a hunt and come home on a hunt and go home. We'd put, 2, 3, 4 of them back to back. So when we would go out, we'd be gone for 5 weeks or so. So, but I got to do a lot of things. I can't think of anything in the world that I wanted to do with my bow that I didn't get to do. And to have a music career come out of it, and then have the music turn into a brand and land me where I am today. Just truly blessed.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's an amazing career, and of course you're not done yet.
No.
But to go from TV host, hunter, into country music, man, that's a wild transition.
It was a lot of fun. We did both we juggled, both things for about 2 or 3 years, and it just got to be where we just couldn't continue to do the show and fulfill the demand to play music. So, something had to go. And, after doing the show for what was 10 years, I was ready ready to put my full efforts into music and move on.
So tell me what it's like to write an album and create songs and with creating the music and the lyrics together. I mean, I would imagine that some of it would be true life experiences to a degree.
Yeah, in the beginning, every song I wrote was for the TV show, so it had some type of hunting based. Hunt me down, support your local wildlife, got to go hunting blues. Everything kind of had that theme to it. But when it came time to make a record, the idea was, all right, let's put about two outdoorsy hunting songs on the record, but you can't do 12 hunting songs. We've got to branch out from this. And that was a new experience for me. And thankfully, the gentleman who was working with me and still works with me, Doug Grau, he had worked with and developed talent like Travis Tritt, Little Texas, Jeff Foxworthy produced the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. So he put me with some better writers, Porter Howe, Mark Sutton, John McElroy, Doug Cahan, Brady Seals. And he put me with some really, good writers that were able to take my experiences, my stories, my passions, what I would write, and basically, help me mold those into really good songs. I'll never forget Porter Howe told me, who's a writer, frontman, guitar player of Little Texas, wrote those #1 hits, God Bless Texas, Amy's Back in Austin, Kick a Little, What Might Have Been, a string of songs, string of hits. And he said, look, Andy, he said, I'm not going to write the song for you. You got to write the song. I'm just going to help you make your song a better song. But, I'm not going to give you the ideas and the theme and the message of the song. You got to bring that to the table. I'll help you take it to another level. And that's what all the writers have done with me. And of course, the more I write, the better I get, and the better I get, the more their input, just adds to the quality of the song. So it's a process for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. As a fan of country music, I get to enjoy it, but you don't really know the process of what goes into it, and the time that goes into creating a song, much less a hit song. Yeah,
and you got different approaches. Sometimes you'll come up with a lick on your guitar and you'll say, hey, I want to build something around this lick. Sometimes you just have an idea. Sometimes you have a melody that you're whistling in your head, but you don't have words for the melody. You got a beat, you got a tempo. You might be writing, no one wants an album full of ballads. You need, in my case, one ballad, maybe two at the most, but one. Then you need a couple like mid-tempo songs, almost like, faster power ballads. And then you need, country rock and roll. And so you gotta look at your album and look at what you have on the table and say, this is a great song and this is a great song, but how are they going to go together if someone would play this album or CD or download album in its entirety? You want a nice mixture of, you don't want all hard, fast-paced rock songs. You got to have a change of tempo, a change of key, maybe bring it down, bring it up, the order you put them in. I mean, all that comes into play and is well thought out.
So when doing music and deciding that you were going to be a musician, did you have anybody that you looked up to, whether it be from maybe rock and roll or country or any other genre?
Yeah, I mean, I have a pretty diverse background of music and of things that I listen to and draw from. And if you listen to my music, it's very much on the rock side of country. I mean, it's almost crosses the line, and someone might make the argument that it's more rock, but it just hovers in that upper end of that country place where it can still live and not quite cross over. And that's because of my background and Doug Grau's background. And what I mean by that, I grew up with a brother who's 6 years older than me and a sister who's 5 years older than me. So when I was a kid and my friends were listening to the Partridge Family, I was listening to the music that my brothers and sisters listened to, which was Hart and Fleetwood Mac and Bob Seger, and the Eagles and Steve Miller. And, that's what I grew up listening to because, again, they were so many years older than me. I mean, they're 16 years old when I'm 10. So I'm listening to 16-year-old teenage music and I'm, 9.5, 10 years old. So I grew up on rock. And when I got because the TV show was Maximum Archery and it was hunting, bow hunting, a lot of the people, if not the majority of the people that watched and loved hunting, loved country music. And the artists that reached out to me that played arenas were well-known country music artists that watched my show. The gentleman who reached out to me to make a record, who I mentioned, Doug Grau, he was in the country, with Little Texas and Travis Tritt and the Davison brothers and David Ball. I mean, he was in the country realm. So when it got time to make a record, I wanted to rock. Doug's like, well, your audience is country, and my influence and my abilities and my wheelhouse is country. So we've got to come up with a sound. And I'm like, well, it's not going to be, this top 40 country thing that's coming about. And he's like, well, it's not going to be, Motley Crue either. So where are we going to land? And we really stumbled on the You Ain't Seen Crazy Yet record, because what we kind of did there was, let's do a couple the way you want, we'll do a couple the way I want. And you had a weird mix. You had songs like Angel to Me and some that were real country. And then You Ain't Seen Crazy Yet, Outlaw Women and Whiskey, Three-Legged Dog. I mean, they sounded like 80s rock songs. And we really didn't combine our thoughts and our sounds and our ideas. We just did 3 or 4 the way I kind of liked and 3 or 4 kind of the way he liked. And we ended up with 10, 12 on a record. But when we got to Cold Dead Hand, that's when we hit our groove. That's when we hit he was like, this is country enough for me, this will work. And I'm like, this is rocking enough for me, this will work. So the Cold Dead Hand record, the Time to Fight record, and now the record that I'm recording, Lucky to Be Alive, we've really each record honed in on a sound that I would say is Andy Ross.
That's awesome. I mean, it's always great for me to talk to somebody like yourself and just get that creative input on what you do and what actually goes into it, because, just like I said, for me, just being a fan, it's one of those things where you can enjoy it, but you can enjoy it more once you realize what goes into it.
Well, I have a different approach maybe, or a different idea about it than most, because I've shared my thoughts with other artists and they're like, yeah, I see where you're coming from, but I never looked at it that way. So my way of looking at it might be different. And when people say you're going to write and record a song, I say build a song. We're going to build a song. You ever build a doghouse or a project? Let's just say doghouse.
Yeah.
Okay. If you build a doghouse, you need wood, you need a plan, you need nails or screws, you need shingles for the roof, you need, a hammer or a drill and a level and a saw. I mean, there's things you need to build this doghouse. Now, if we were to build dinner tonight and we're having dinner guests over, whatever we're making, we might need flour, might need egg and salt, seasonings. We need this cut of meat. We need these pots, these pans. You need all this stuff. And at the end of cooking or building dinner, this dinner is going to come out. It's going to come out of the oven and off the stove. And this doghouse, at the end of using this wood and shingles and glue and nails and hammers, saws, this doghouse is going to come out. The dinner may not be good. You may throw it away, or the next time you make it, you may change the recipe. The doghouse, you say, well, if I had to rebuild that, I'd do it a little different. Well, when I build a song, I need a tempo, a beat, a melody. I need lyrics. I need a guitar riff. I need harmonies. There's just things you need, and that song comes out like that doghouse comes out, like that dinner came out, and you may throw it away. Very possibly it's like, that didn't work. That didn't sound good, or that didn't taste good, or that won't hold up in the weather. It's the same thing. It's just creativity of building a song or making a song or writing a song or bringing a song to life, just like you take ingredients and bring dinner to life or bring a doghouse to fruition or to, to be. So that's how I look at it and view it. So if you can do any of those things, it's kind of the same thing. You have certain ingredients that you need and see how it comes out.
All right, we're going to take a quick break from this episode to take a look at Andy Ross's newest song release, All American Heart. So without further ado, here's Andy Ross and All American Heart.
Here's to the cornfield farmer, oil rig roughnecks too. Nurses on the night shift, drummer on a drum kit, ain't it red, white, and blue, doing their thing, playing their part, living the dream with an all-American heart. Big rig burning up the asphalt, blue collar on the line, small town teachers, Bible Belt preachers, under them stars and stripes, doing their thing, playing their part, living the dream with an all-American heart. From the south to the heartland, every woman and man, all living for the same thing. From back east to out west, just doing their best. Let that freedom ring. Oh, they're doing their thing. They're playing their part, just living the dream with an all-American heart. So here's to everybody, putting it all on the line, from state to state, pulling their weight, coming through every time. Yeah, doing their thing, playing their part, living the dream, right from the start, with an all-American heart. With an all-American heart, just living the dream with an all-American heart.
Yeah, I mean, it's, that's a great analogy, is the doghouse or cooking dinner, because if you don't have the right ingredients, so to speak,
Yeah.
regardless of what you're trying to build or make, it's not going to turn out.
You're making a 6-course meal. You're like, man, I'm never using pineapple juice in that again. That was terrible, It's like, man, that banjo part, I don't know about that. And I think, it just sounds too, it's just moving too slow. And it's, you're just creating, really. Whether you're creating music or, you've created a podcast. There were certain things you needed to bring this podcast to life. And, we went through one of your programs. We needed to make it happen that I just downloaded so we could do this today. You've got 5 or 6 things you need to pull together, and then someone's going to watch this show and say, how'd you do that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in your music career, where do you see yourself going? I mean, what's the end goal? I mean, I know for some people it's to be massively famous, but then others it's just to be successful in their own right and have fun.
Yeah, my music career is is it's very robust. It's big, but it's not, it's not Tim McGraw big. It's not Taylor Swift big. It's not Van Halen big. It started as a TV show. It morphed into a music career, and I always tell people, there's no way I'm going to win The Voice. I might not even make the audition. I may not even get on the show. But what I do better than anybody else out there is I play and sing Andy Ross music better than anyone else. And that's enough. And people are digging it, listening to it, showing up to my concerts and demanding, requesting me to come play. And, it's bigger every year. Every year I keep thinking, well, I'm a little old maybe to be pioneering a music career. But every year when I think it's going to die off, it just gets bigger and bigger. The audience gets bigger. More people have access to the music now because of streaming and, all the ways we listen to music. So we have more people than ever, by far, listening to the music, and more people, than ever want me to come play. Play a lot of NASCAR events. I play motorcycle rallies like Bullitt County Bike Fest. We play a lot of Freedom Festivals, Weekend for Our Heroes, Armed Forces Day. Play a lot of outdoor spring, summertime events. But I had a song out in 2015 off the Time to Fight record called American Rebel, and it became a patriotic anthem, and we decided to build a brand around it. And we built a brand around it. We've introduced products. One of our flagship products is our American Rebel gun safes, our concealed carry clothing. We've just introducing our line of electric bikes. And, as of February of this year, we became a publicly traded company on NASDAQ. So when I was doing the TV show, I didn't know I would end up with a music career. When I was writing music, I didn't know I would have these patriotic anthems and we'd build a brand around it. And when we did, I didn't know we'd be a publicly traded company on NASDAQ. So my advice to myself is just keep pushing because it's working. And I'm going to keep writing songs, making music. I'm going to take advantage of interviews like this podcast and every chance I can get myself on radio, TV, in front of people, podcasts, to talk about music and to talk about the American Rebel brand and just keep working.
So as far as jumping into the American Rebel brand, I didn't know that you did that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a full-time job in itself. In fact, and because we're American Rebel, America's patriotic brand, and we're producing a lot of products in the U.S. and bringing jobs to the U.S., and because it came from the patriotic music, which came from the TV show, I get a lot of requests to do a lot of stuff. For instance, Monday, I was on the ABC morning show in Las Vegas. Tuesday, I was on the ABC morning show in Phoenix. The last 3 weeks, I've been on Newsmax, Bloomberg, Fox Business. So thankfully, when they talk to me, all I got to do is tell my story. The difference between playing patriotic country rock and roll and playing my music and working and running America's patriotic brand, American Rebel, you would think they are completely different, but they're really not because they have the same mission statement. It's the same interview and the goal's the same. And I get to be the same person. They don't make me put on a suit and tie when I'm doing CEO of American Rebel business. And they just let me roll how I roll as if, I'm on the morning show, just being the same person I am if I was, 45 minutes from hitting the stage. So it's not like I have to change characters or change hats.
And that's a really hard thing to balance. I would feel just because, somebody's being authentic when you see them one way, and then when you meet them in a totally different company aspect,
yeah,
they're the exact same.
And that's a great point. And no one's ever said that to me, but you're exactly right. I've done a lot of interviews, investor conferences, things on Wall Street, things in Manhattan, and made the mistake of showing up trying to look like a businessman, and they're like, no, where's that American Rebel guy? That's who we want. I mean, they darn near want me to walk out there in stage clothes or something, you know. But that's who they want. They want the same guy. And it's funny, when I do music interviews, they want to talk more about American Rebel and how did you become the CEO of a public company. But when I go do interviews with like Newsmax or Bloomberg, new to the street, and they know me as the CEO of the public company, they want to spend more time talking about my music. So it's kind of funny that, you know, they want to talk about like the one they didn't really know about maybe as much.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a fantastic thing, and a lot of that is where we live.
Yeah.
You know, we have the freedom to do that and to try to be true to ourselves and be successful in our own right, whatever that means to the person at the time.
Yeah. You know, you made a good point where we live. I've often thought, first I used to say children, and now I think children and adults should all have one of these globes, you know, by your bed, you know, on a stand. And, you know, they spin, right? The globe will spin. And every morning you ought to wake up and spin that thing, shut your eyes, and poke it and stop it with your finger. And if your finger lands on the United States of America, and that's where you woke up, you should consider yourself very lucky that's where you are. Not everybody gets to poke that globe and have it land on the United States of America, because I know the stuff I'm doing. And when people want to have their version of chasing the American dream, the advantage you have by having that American dream in this country versus any other place in the world is, you know, it's just a blessing. And I don't think enough people, I shouldn't say that, but it feels like sometimes not everybody has a full appreciation of where they woke up this morning.
And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, you know, I wouldn't be trying to do what I do because I work full time at a Firestone. So, you know, I do this on the side. Hopefully one day I'll be able to be like you and just do what I love to do, you know, and it'll come. It's hard work, but if it wasn't hard, everybody would do it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you have the opportunity to do that because of where we woke up today. Not everybody has that opportunity. And I'm sure it's going to work out just great for you.
I appreciate that a lot. And so the new album you're working on, do you have any songs out currently from the album?
Yeah, All American Heart was the first single off the album. You know, back when I first did music and years ago, what you would do is you would record an album of music. And when I say album, you know, I don't necessarily mean an album that's printed on vinyl. I mean, everybody thinks that that's an album. An album is just the songs that you recorded at one time, and it's an album of music. You could put them on CD, you could put them on iTunes, you could put them on streaming, you could print them on vinyl. It's just an album of music. But people would record an album and they would complete it, and then they would start releasing a single here and a single 7-8 months later and what have you. Now they do, because of streaming, we do what's called the waterfall approach. And that is, we'll take a song off the album that we're recording that we know we want to release, and we'll do it first and release it while we're working on the next, you know, the rest of the songs on the album. And then 6, 8, 9, we might release 3 or 4 months later just one digitally, but not to radio. And then 3 or 4 or 5 months after that, we might introduce one again to radio. And by that time, the album's, you know, done. But we're actually kicking songs off of it as they're being completed while it's done. It's, again, called the waterfall approach that most of Nashville's doing now, and not waiting until an album is complete.
That's awesome. And you are an amazing person to talk to just because of your wide range of what you've done and what is still to come.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's, I use the word blessed a bunch, but I am truly blessed to have been able to take a lot of passions and turn them into successes and kind of springboard one off the other.
So for our listeners and viewers who are watching, where can they find the American Rebel brand, and where can they find your music?
Well, AmericanRebel.com is absolutely where you can find all things American Rebel. In January at the SHOT Show, we're introducing we have all of our gun safes out. We're introducing our electric bikes. All of our concealed carry clothing's out. You can see all of it at AmericanRebel.com. And then as far as me and my music, aside from American Rebel, AndyRoss.com. All my socials are at Andy Ross Rebel. So come follow me and reach out and, turn on some music and enjoy it.
Well, listen, I appreciate your time so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for having me, and I look forward to coming back.
Thank you very much. We definitely want to have you back at some point.
Perfect.
All right.
Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you very much. Have a great afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.